Machine churning out another as Patrick Mahomes remains undefeated in divisional round play. A spectacular play here, early fourth quarter, falling to the ground, finds Travis Kelce. Those two always playing on the same page, even when it's in a different book. Later, Houston looking for an answer, and on fourth down, George Karlaftis, one of his 3 sacks on the day, takes down C.J. Stroud, who was sacked 8 times throughout this game. And then in a 2-possession game, you need the 3 before you can think about anything beyond it, and blocked is the kick. Kaimi Fairbairn misses an extra point, misses a field goal, and has a field goal blocked. Add him up 7 points. The difference in this one was larger, 23-14. Your final as the Chiefs move on to their 7th consecutive AFC title game, where they will face the Ravens or the Bills. Postgamers presented by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. Joe Musso, pleased to be alongside the 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden. Mac, I got pertinent questions on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball here for Kansas City, but that surge coming home to get it to the finish line was the defense and those sacks. Yeah. What did you see from that group up front and the way they heated up C.J. Stroud?
Just a team, Joe, that dominated in the trenches. Now, coming into this matchup, when you look at the Houston Texans on the offensive end, that has been an area of concern, the offensive linemen. The inability to protect the quarterback. They did a pretty good job last week against the Chargers, kind of outkicked their coverage, to say the least. But they came back down to reality in this divisional matchup game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Talking about National Sack Day. It wasn't actually National Sack Day, but it was so for the Kansas City Chiefs. 8 sacks. They were so dominant in 4 quarters of play, and they needed to showcase that ability, because if you look at their offense, we saw some spotty areas with the Kansas City Chiefs offensively. It seemed to be a bit rusty. The rhythm wasn't there, but when things was not going for their offense, guess what? The defense did what they needed to do to give Pat Mahomes the extra possessions to be able to put points on the scoreboard.
I mean, stop me if you've heard it before. Defense and Travis Kelce, a winning formula for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's how they've redefined themselves these last couple of years with some talent leaving and injuries they've had. Offense, it's shown up when they need it, but maybe not the calling card right now. This man will be and has been the calling card come postseason time for the Kansas City Chiefs. What did you see here? Because this seemed like a go find 87, base the defense off of this guy. And so often, it wasn't Kelce making a play through traffic. It was him making a play in space and then taking what yardage was given to him. How did he remain so dominant?
Well, a lot of their execution had to do with mishaps from the Houston Texans, because they forgot that Travis Kelce is still him. He's still a first ballot Hall of Famer. And they allow Travis Kelce, especially in zone drops, to find the open space. And when he does that, he will do damage. And we saw that in the first half. Remember, at halftime, he had 2 receptions for 72 yards. So that was the telling sign that Travis Kelce was in his playoff mode, right? And then you look at what he finished the ball game with, 7 receptions for 177 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately for fantasy owners, you would have loved to have this production while your fantasy league was still in play. But Travis Kelce can care less about that. It's all about the here and now. And anytime he plays in mid-January football, recent history tells us he delivers big time.
Leads to a couple points of distinction for both quarterback and coach. 300 wins for Andy Reid, becomes the 4th member of that coveted group. Patrick Mahomes, 16 career playoff victories. Ties him with Joe Montana. Did it in far quicker than Montana did throughout his career, and it's been greatness personified in the form of Mahomes and just the mind mouth that he plays with that tight end and the way they always find each other in these types of moments. 7 straight conference championship Sundays. That's hard to wrap your head around. The 2nd longest streak behind the Patriots and their dynastic run. How do you put that sort of consistency into words? The Chiefs just really setting their floor on Championship Sunday.
Well, it's all about what they do in divisional Sundays or divisional matchups in playoffs football. Let's start with the quarterback. He's currently 7-0 in divisional games in the playoffs, right? He's yet to throw an interception.
Hasn't turned it over.
He has yet to have a turnover in divisional football. When your quarterback is that good in divisional matchups, no question you get the championship Sunday. That's why they've been a mainstay. And I know fans who don't have a dog in the race, you're like, you Kansas City Chiefs fatigue. And I was talking to my mom. She's like, I'm tired of seeing Kansas City get to championship Sunday. Well, I said, until somebody else beat them, then we're going to keep seeing the Chiefs show up, because they know how to get the job done. And the one thing about the Kansas City Chiefs, especially in playoff football, they will not beat themselves. So if you're the opposing team, you have to go above and beyond that element. You have to play spotless football. And sometimes they get a call here or there. It's just the nature of the Kansas City Chiefs and playing in the Arrowhead. But in other opportunities, you have to take advantage of those miscues that might surface, because if you do not, they will come back to bite you in the behind. And we saw that today against Houston, and we've seen that in any other year in terms of Kansas City being in the playoffs. So you have to find a way to get the job done whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Certainly they lose the special teams battle, leaving 7 points on the field in the kick.
Mishap. You can't do that,
Didn't cover kicks, penalties in kick coverage as well. It wasn't the little things that you need to do to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team. And it's 8 consecutive playoff wins for Kansas City. Only been done twice before, in the 60s, Green Bay, and in the early aughts, the Patriots. 8 consecutive for Kansas City, who have just grown to understand Championship Sunday in a different way. On the other side of this one, Mac, it's a film that Houston's going to look at and say, we had our opportunities. Yeah. They're also going to say, that wasn't a penalty in a couple places as well. I'll go big picture in a moment, but this 60 minutes of football felt like some of the best we've seen out of C.J. Stroud when he was upright in this game.
He did. He did a really, really good job. I think the last 2 weeks, C.J. Stroud did a really, really good job. You look at his entire season, right? He had some highs and some lows, some ebbs and flows. And when you look at the expectations, let's keep it real. The expectations for C.J. Stroud was very, very high because of how well he performed, Joe, during his rookie campaign. But coming into this season, because of those expectations, he didn't really reach it. And then you got to factor in, throughout the entire season, he was missing his 3 top pass catchers, right? Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. All 3 guys missed time, and then 2 guys were injured, had season-ending injury. Yeah. His top target, and Nico Collins, missed 5 ball games.
We said it when we were watching it. This would be a tough team to prepare for if you have a full battery of wide receivers.
Oh, my goodness. At least one of those healthy guys in the lineup. But yet and still, they still fought. The thing I love about this team is their defense. Their defense did a great job keeping this team afloat. They did that last week. Remember the slow start we saw from their offense against the Chargers? Guess what? Their defense found a way. Unfortunately for their defense today, it was a taller task that was being asked of them. Yeah. So when you look at what they need to do moving forward, when you have a quarterback and a head coach, you have a fighting chance. But they have to find a way to add depth. Because when you look at the pass catcher position, outside of Nico Collins, who was doubled mightily in this ball game, there's not another threat that opposing defenses have to really pay extra attention to. So they have some offseason things to think about. It was a successful year, but when you look at losing in the way they lost today and the team they lost to, they have no reason to hang their head down.
That's interesting you put it that way, because I was about to pose the question of, was this season a success? Because you measure relative to Stroud's rookie season, and there was some regression in some places. The regular season was a little bit more of a struggle than last year's was. It wasn't as celebrated as one a year ago. Your season ends in the same place, the divisional round. You've still not seen a championship Sunday, and it's going to be hard to when you're facing a team like the Chiefs. But all in all, you see success.
Yes, I see success once again with your second-year quarterback, because how many times have we seen second-year quarterbacks hit that sophomore slump? Now, to your point, Joe, we saw some lows with C.J. Stroud, to say the least, but I think it was mostly about the inability of their offensive line. I mean, anytime you have a average at best, right, at best, offensive line unit, you might not get the type of production you would like to get from your quarterback. But yet instead, he was battle-tested. And the thing that I love in C.J. Stroud's game today, the Ohio State versus Georgia, C.J. Stroud showed up. Because guess what he did? Made things happen with his legs.
He did it with his legs when he
did it with his legs. Now, he was forced to do that because of the protection of the I believe he can continue to add that to his game and can help the entire offense out tremendously.
Similar to a year ago in result, in performance as well, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans season comes to a close at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, who join a group of...
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình, những video của mình.